Please sit. Why don't you enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea?
I don't need any calming tea! I need to capture the Avatar!
Ah, angry Zuko, how much we don't miss you. Hello and welcome to my first big video, and the first in a series that I call Small Bites of the Big List. In this series, we'll be going over the plots in the big list of RPG plots, written by John Ross. We'll take an in-depth look at each of them, talk about the media that you can draw on for inspiration, the strengths and weaknesses of the plots, and how to create an adventure using these plots. And for our first video, we'll be taking a look at the manhunt. The big list of RPG plots that we are working from describes the manhunt as someone is gone, they've run away, gotten lost, or simply haven't called home in a while. Someone misses them or needs them returned. The PCs are called in to find them and bring them back. This premise, while simple, has a lot of different ways you can go about it. This plot could range from the players going after the bounty on a criminal to finding a kid's lost dog. There are quite a few stories you could draw on for inspiration. Examples include, but are not limited to, The Witcher 3, where Geralt looks for Ciri, Finding Nemo, it's in the title, Detective Pikachu, with Tim and Pikachu looking for Tim's dad, and bonus points if you recognize this one, The Pyramid of Peril, where the red panda and the flying squirrel look for their friend, the stranger. When creating a manhunt adventure, you first need to figure out why the missing person vanished. Were they kidnapped? Did they run away? Maybe they just got lost. Or was some weird supernatural event responsible for their disappearance? The next thing you'll need to do to make a manhunt is create a clue trail. The first step to make a clue trail is to make some breadcrumbs. These could be security footage, someone the missing person spoke to, or a memo written by said missing person. Now keep in mind that these breadcrumbs should always point the players to the next one. The more obvious the next crumb is, the better. You'll want to throw in some obstacles in between the breadcrumbs so the PCs can feel cool and don't lose interest in your adventure. I think Grog saw where your friend went, but he doesn't talk to anyone until they've proven themselves in the ring. If you're going to Dawngrest, you'll need to hurry. The last ferry for the month leaves in, about 10 minutes. Along with the obstacles, you'll also want to figure out some ways to get the PCs back onto the clue trail if things go wrong. You could have a sympathetic NPC that hands the breadcrumb to the PCs if they're having a hard time, or if the dice just aren't cooperating. Sometimes the PCs will just walk past a breadcrumb no matter how obvious it is, in which case you need to hit them with the clue bat. The clue bat is when you put the item in your descriptions until the players catch on that it's important. You find a charred cloak with a sigil of the Morning Guard. Oh, you put it down? As you walk towards the door, the sigil on that burned cloak catches your eye. As you open the door, the light from the outside reflects off of the sigil on the cloak that's on the ground over there. Now, if you felt embarrassed when realizing that your GM had to use the clue bat in your own games, skip ahead to here, because this next technique is real duplicitous. This tool is only to be deployed in emergency situations, like if your PCs get off on a wild tangent about how the missing person ran away to join an ostrich cult. This devious and devilishly useful tool is, players, it isn't too late to skip ahead, timestamp here, the Running Man. To deploy a running man, just have the PC spot someone that was hiding, and have the NPC start running. I promise, the players will give chase. You can use this chase to get the players where they need to be. Just make sure you have a reason for the NPC when they do catch them, because the players will catch them. The last thing to add to the clue trail is some foreshadowing about the fate of the missing person. However, make sure you, or your players, don't confuse foreshadowing for a breadcrumb. When in doubt, a good rule of thumb is, if it leads directly to a person or a location, it's a breadcrumb. For example, if your missing person was captured by sentient ooze criminals, I found my next game, the floor being unusually sticky or oily is foreshadowing, while a poker chip from a well-known casino is a breadcrumb. While you can and should make players roll to find foreshadowing, please don't ever make players roll for breadcrumbs. It's just no fun to sit around waiting for someone to eventually roll high enough to move the plot forward. Also, while foreshadowing can be found anywhere in a scene, the breadcrumb should be one of the last things to be found. This will help players feel like they worked for it. And congratulations! You now have a clue trail for the players to follow. The hard part is done. Now we just need to add some fun details to our manhunt adventure. The first of these fun details is some sort of climax or twist. You can check out the big list we're working from for ideas for twists. As for the climax, you could have a tense negotiation with the missing person or their captor, go with a classic combat encounter, or have a major revelation about the world or the plot. You could do whatever you want. Just make sure it's different from the obstacles that the PCs had to overcome to get to this point. So, now that the PCs have their man, the adventure is over, right? Nope! If you want to stretch things out, the search could only be half of the plot. Getting the missing person back to where they need to be could be an adventure in and of itself. We'll link the appropriate plot videos you could use for this half in the card. Once we make them, that is. Okay, now the last step to make a manhunt adventure is to prepare consequences for success and failure. How will people react, or the world change, if the PCs succeed? What about if they fail? And now, you have a manhunt plot. Take a moment to pat yourself on the back. While this plot has a lot of potential, there are a few pitfalls you should be aware of. First off, if you aren't careful, you could easily fall into the trap of railroading, since the clue trail is the interesting part of the adventure, and it occasionally restricts options for both you and your players. Another problem to be aware of is that you need to make the players feel like they're solving a mystery, not just checking off boxes until they can turn in their plot coupon for the missing person. This problem is further amplified if you don't have an interesting climax or twist prepared. The last issue you need to be aware of is that sometimes it can be a challenge to get players invested into this kind of adventure. This problem isn't so much a weakness as much as a lack of strength, as we'll see in the other plot videos. But it's not all doom and gloom with the manhunt. For instance, one of the biggest strengths of a manhunt plot is that the objective is simple, easy to grasp, and obvious. Even orc grunts can understand it. Fine guy. Get paid. Buy mead. So, you don't have to worry about players saying, wait, what are we doing? And how do we get here in the first place? This is a great plot for showing off character motivations, and because of how vast and varied people's desires are, you can run it as many times as you want and still make it different each time. And for our last point, this kind of plot is easier to improv than other plots because your players don't need to know why the events happened immediately. You can just pick someone in your setting that would be missed and that could disappear, then figure out what happened to them while the players search. I personally recommend making whoever was going to pay the players for their last job disappear. They'll chase that person to the ends of the earth to make sure that they can buy that new set of armor. So, that's the manhunt. Simple premise, but with a lot of variability, and a surprising amount of prep. Have you run this kind of adventure before? Did I get anything wrong? Please let me know about your experiences and nitpicks down below. Thanks for watching, and remember, as long as everyone is having fun, even if your players decide to join a sentient ooze crime syndicate, you're doing it right.